Congrats. 4 million views in one weekend?
Never actually had one blow up like this before.
I found someone for your next video.
Hi, my name's Red Wilson, and I have created the world's second Sasquatch trap.
You want me to film him catching Bigfoot?
No, I want you to film him not catching Bigfoot and realizing he's an idiot.
Hello and welcome back to Geek Legion of Doom. I'm Lisa from the Lisa Loves channel, and today I'm doing a review for you about the 2023 movie The Bigfoot Trap, which was written and directed by Aaran. Now, who does it star? Apologies for any mispronunciation. As always, we've got the main three people that we see in the movie is Lazar, Hoffman, Andy Canis, and Tyler Weisner. So, to a premise. So we start by following a character called Josh, who is a journalist, but a journalist in the loosest sense of the word, in that he films kind of people that have conspiracy theories, or we start with him filming a flat earther, and he's basically filming these people and using it as news so that I suppose the people can be ridiculed. That's the sort of thing that he goes after that gets clicks, that gets views online. So he's like an online journalist. So Josh's boss asks him to go and meet a guy in the Tennessee mountains by the name of Red Wilson. He is the head of the Southern Sasquatch Research Foundation. This guy truly believes in Bigfoot, in Sasquatch, and he reports to have the only Bigfoot proof trap. So he can trap Bigfoot in this trap and he won't be able to escape. So they see a bit of a story here. They see, I suppose, a bit of a chance at ridicule of this individual, and Josh is shipped off to meet Red. When he gets there, he meets Red, he meets his brother, and that's where our story mainly starts, with the relationship between these two. Unexpectedly, the journalist Josh actually finds he's got a lot in common with Red, and he really likes him as an individual. And I won't tell you any more about the story, but what follows is these two guys getting to know one another, various things that happened between the three of them. And with the storyline, I suppose you could be forgiven for thinking this may be a comedy, but this is very much played serious. It's played as a thriller. There is a bit of like sort of danger in here. If you want to watch this to watch a Sasquatch movie, that's not what this is. This is more, I suppose, a bit of a character study between these guys. We do have a little bit of action in the movie. I won't give any detail as to how that comes about, but yeah, I think that's the basic premise without wanting to give too much away. So, pros and cons. So I'll give my pros first of all on this. Now, from reading, I have heard a lot of people say that they really rated Zach Lazar Hoffman's performance as Red. I have to say I much prefer Tyler Weisenauer as Josh, as the journalist. I thought he was a much more believable, fully fleshed out character. When watching the character of Red, sometimes I really was aware that I was watching acting. Certain things seems a little bit overacted, seemed a little bit too much sometimes. I felt that the character of Josh was very much more realistic, more grounded, wasn't as prone to like great extremes of emotion as we did have with Red. Maybe he was just supposed to be a more intense character, but for me, intensity didn't really come across. What came across was like pushing certain emotions a little bit too far. The story, the premise of this one is very solid. It was really interesting. It went places no one would expect it to. The ending I do really enjoy. I thought that was actually the strongest part of the movie, was actually how they decided to end it. I really liked that. As I say, I really liked Tyler Weisenauer's performance as Josh. I was a little bit less fond of the other performances in the movie. With regards to things like sound design, it was really good. I wasn't, as I do say quite often, sometimes you get pulled out of a movie by really inappropriate sound design being used, things that don't fit, scores that just over-egg the pudding, that just don't fit with what's happening at the time, that are trying to dictate how you should feel. So I felt the sound design in this was very good. I didn't have any issues with volume or audio. Sometimes I find with movies, the talking is at a low level and then you have the soundtrack come in or the score, and you're just sitting the whole movie turning your volume up and down to adjust it to a similar volume. So cinematography was absolutely spot on. A lot of this, most of this is filmed, as you can imagine, like in a wood area in the middle of nowhere in Tennessee in the mountains. So the scenery, you know, everything looked really good. It was believable. It didn't look out of place, so that all fit very well. So strengths for me would have been storyline, ending. Tyler Weisenauer's performance, the score was, I wouldn't say it was amazing, but it fit, and the cinematography was absolutely fine also. So to the cons. Unfortunately, as I say, Zach Lazar Hoffman's performance I wasn't a big fan of. It did appear to be, it brought me out of the situation, and I felt like I was watching a person acting. Maybe that's just a personal preference, I'm not sure. I found it quite odd that most people were preferring his performance, or saying that his performance was the strongest thing about the movie, when I really felt that Tyler Weisenauer's performance was better, personally. I felt some of the script in places was a little bit unbelievable. It wouldn't be things people would say. It was a little bit reaching. It was a little bit to try and make a certain criteria be met, to sort of like journey us from one point in the story to another. Sort of like it had to be said rather than it would be said in a normal conversation. I did like the beginnings of the relationship between these guys, but I did feel as it progressed, the relationship, the friendship that was meant to be forming between Red and Josh wasn't really believable. It felt like two very different characters, even though the movie was telling us they were similar. It was pointing towards the fact that this guy came to ridicule Red, but when they've met, they actually realise how similar they are, is the storyline. But I felt they were just two exceedingly different characters with very different personalities, and the relationship just didn't really gel for me, which I think was one of the mainstays, one of the main parts of this movie, was the believability of this relationship between these two guys, which for me personally, I didn't really feel worked, unfortunately. I do feel this movie could have been much better, with a little bit more attention to detail, with perhaps a little bit of different casting. It was an hour and 25 minutes. I felt we could have benefited from a little bit more to sort of give us a little bit more background to when things got going. It ended very, very quickly. The ending, the latter quarter of this movie was probably the best part of the movie. The scenes with Tyler Weisenauer were my actual favourite. We got an actor called Baron Bodecker that came in to play a policeman at one stage, and I really liked his performance. I thought he was very good. The scenes between him and Tyler I thought were excellent. I really enjoyed them. It's just every time I saw the character Red on the screen and he started to have any sort of length of dialogue, I did feel quite taken out of the situation, unfortunately. Maybe it was just personal preference, I'm not sure, but I did prefer Tyler's overall performance. So overall, this is not a bad movie. It's got a really interesting premise. It's got a good idea. It's got a satisfying ending. But it just did in places feel like a bit of a slog to get there to the end. I do feel with a little bit of addition to the time that we had, which was an hour and 25 minutes, and with a little bit more ingenious thinking, and with a relationship between two guys that seemed a little bit more believable, I do feel that this could have been a much better movie. Just make it a little bit darker, a little bit grittier than it was. This movie was, a lot of the scenes were in like bright light, which I suppose obviously for lighting purposes and for cinematography is much easier, but I do feel we really could have benefited from more sort of like dusk, nighttime. There is, don't get me wrong, there is nighttime footage in this, but I do feel we could have benefited a little bit more from that. You're probably wondering about the Sasquatch, about the creature design. I don't want to say too much about that. Obviously, there's budgetary constraints in this, but for me, very much the creature design, or the creature and how the creature looks, isn't the most important part of this movie. It's not going to like be right up there with the best of special effects. Don't think that before you go in. But for me, I wanted the relationship between the two guys is the thing that's the most important. It's how Red got to there, how he feels the way he does, Josh coming from where he was and meeting Red and how that affects him. The whole storyline was really interesting. The premise and the idea were really good. I just feel that something was lost along the way with putting that across to us as the audience, and I can't quite put my finger on what it was. I can only say from a personal viewpoint it was perhaps that the relationship to me, which was the real foundation of this movie, wasn't entirely believable. There were a lot of really silly decisions made by characters that just would not have happened. You're shouting at the TV screen, why have you done that? Why aren't you doing this? So a lot of things like that. If I had to, in conclusion, rate this 1 out of 10, I would probably come in at a 5 out of 10 for this one. So the movie comes out on the 10th of July on digital. so you can catch it then. We'd be really interested to know what you think when you see it. Come back and let us know. If you have already seen it early, let us know in the comments what you thought. What do you think of what I've said, the premise, the idea? Let us know below. We do like to read your comments. So thanks so much for watching, guys. We'll look forward to speaking to you next time.